just wanted to share a concept about the sinus lift. And traditionally, a sinus lift is required when the bone around the sinus, namely the alveolar ridge, disappears over a period of time simply because after the extraction there is bony resorption. This can often result in pneumatization of the maxillary sinus antrum, and as a result, the floor of the sinus diminishes in dimension. So when you don't have enough bone in the sinus floor, then it is difficult to place an implant. So obviously we need to augment the area with some form of bone graft. When there's a thick amount of native alveolar bone still present, it is relatively easy to perform a lift using a crystal approach. There are many varieties and forms of augmenting that area. However, when you're left with a minimal amount, let's say 3 millimeters or less, of native alveolar bone, that is when we need to shift gears and move into a lateral approach sinus lift. That's when we create a window on the side of the sinus, and there are various ways to do this, using either a rotary or lately I've been using the piezo method, simply because there is a lot of research that supports this approach, reestablishing the lateral wall of the sinus after you've done your work. I got the privilege of performing this technique at the Pacific Dental Conference with my colleague Dr. Mark Guan, where we showcased this procedure. It's a wonderful procedure. However, it is rather technically challenging, and especially in areas where you might have a septum, then it can be a little bit tricky, and I can find myself struggling trying to lift this area up. In those situations, the smartest thing to do is to respect the septum and to work around it. And that's exactly what I did here. Yes, it was a little bit of a struggle, and yes, even though I tried to plan for it, sometimes when you're trying to make the cut, you don't always see everything. Nonetheless, we were able to lift up the sinus, and everything went well. Was able to place the PRF gels and then place the implant. It went very smoothly. Of course, then, because of this particular technique, I got to put back the bony window that I had cut out originally. And that is why, and again, as I had mentioned before, this approach allows the body to regenerate that bone that we had cut out very quickly, very predictably, and without any complications. After the windows are put back on, we put on PRF, close up the flap, and suture things up. Everything heals uneventfully, and we generally get a very nice result.